sight to behold.
That's disgusting.
Sight
You
to
can't take
behold.
pictures of me when I'm getting dressed.
You can't walk around like that. You can't walk around like that.
I was getting clothes from the laundry
You
room.
can't walk. No, you did it to try to torture me and tease me. Yes, you did.
No.
You
I
came-
just wanted clothes.
No, that's not. She just wanted clothes. Please, I've known you for quite a while. I knew you came. Yes.
It's not true.
I am for, by the way. You want to be Miss Walk Around in a Towel Lady? I am signed off on that big time.
Well, it's good. I'm going to get back into using self-tanner, so...
No.
Yes.
It smells terrible. You're not using it.
I'm going to use it.
Anybody
but that
wanna
means
see
I have to walk around naked while I dry.
Ooh. I like that.
But you're not allowed to touch me so I don't get smudges.
I promise I won't. I absolutely will not. There's no way I would. I don't understand who you think I am. As a matter of fact, I'm hurt. They would suggest that if you want to see the lovely Alice Shattuck today, I'm taking her out for a Bloody Mary in Exeter, New Hampshire at some point. So we'll see you in Exeter, New Hampshire. We don't even know what's there. We don't even know anything. But, okay, where do you want to start? One, it was interesting. I was out yesterday with a group of friends, many of whom who listen to this podcast, who... I think these guys, these are all my core friends from 30 years ago. 1995, as a matter of fact, so it's 30 years. And this is a family from Lowell, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And now none of them live, I don't think, in Lowell, but they're in Greater Lowell, here or there. You know, Duxbury, Drake, Pelham, even Groton, whatever, all around there. Everybody in this family has done well one way or another. Mm-hmm. They've all got crazy work ethics. These people. They all, I don't know if they all, but my friend, certainly my best friend, we could say of this group, just in case another best friend's listening.
Your best friend of this family.
Right. Could not wait to get to wash Lowell off of him. Hates the idea that he's from Lowell. Just can't. And I love Lowell. I didn't grow up there, obviously, but I worked for the Lowell Sun for a few years.
That being said, they're all way more talented than a lot of non-Lowell people that
they're the most talented
have
group of,
skills like
they're the most talented group of people I've ever met.
Carpentry and like making surfboards by hand and like all kinds, like the most talented.
No. You act
like
we need to offset something I've said. I'm only going to say good things.
Yeah.
These are the most talented, hardworking people that I know. And you're right, carpentry. And one of these guys is. One of the brothers has built his own bar and has built his own shed. They build all their own stuff. Their dad was like a master carpenter, just a hugely talented guy. And they have all these skills that are passed down. They're all they're smart and funny, America-loving people. One of these guys, actually, you should go if you guys want to check it out. Check out Phil Jusome Sly Mongoose surfboards. If you guys are surfers. He just started doing this in his 40s, making surfboards, and now these are works of art. And so anyway, the only reason I bring it up...
Hashtag this is not an ad, but...
It's not an ad. So, but this is... I just bring it up because it correlates directly to something that we're going to talk about here today, which is... And I've known these people since they were in their 20s, essentially, and we were all just kind of drinking beer together in our 20s, and they're all married, and they have kids. And almost to a person, all of their kids has their ducks in a row. I think it's not even almost. I think they're either in like sports medicine or a bunch of the girls are nurses or in healthcare. They all went to college. The ones that I know of went to college with a goal. I think probably paid for their own, and maybe it doesn't matter. But they're very heterodox. I find them to be heterodox compared to where you would think polite blue state Massachusetts society would be. Mm-hmm. Probably not for Republicans. Probably not that heterodox. But these we have, and we're going to play it in a second here. We have in this country set expectations that's based on serious neighborhood societal peer pressure, I think. Serious. And I think some people who are one generation from being blue collar, they're not sensitive to this stuff.
Well, and we've talked about this a little on this show, is that it's very easy if you don't understand how people end up having stuff
yes.
to get mad about it, right? Like if you legitimately, and I think a lot of young people, particularly if your parents shelter you from ever having to get a job because like school's more important type of thing, right? You know, I know parents like that who are like, oh, I wouldn't want my kid to get a job. They're not ready for that. They need to focus on school. I don't want to take their time. That view it as some sort of like hardship for their kids. But if you don't understand how it is that people make money and get ahead in life, then sure, then of course you're going to be mad when you see that there's Elon Musks in the world and, you know, maybe even you in the world because you grew up in Wellesley and you don't know how you got to be in Wellesley. You didn't do anything particularly deserving to be in Wellesley. And you don't know why you're in Wellesley living this nice life, going to this nice high school, and other people aren't. Right? Like, well, you don't know how you got there.
Yes, but the worst thing, Alice, is if you don't know how you got there and then assume
that foul play was involved.
No. That you don't know how you got there and then assume you're part of some kind of nobility. Oh, no, I'm serious. Right. I'm serious. I think some people think, oh, I have a nice house. I live in Wellesley. We've got Range Rovers. My mom went to this college. My dad went to this college. I listen to NPR. I must be morally in the right, doing something right. I'm doing all the good person things.
Well, and the truth is somebody in their past, a generation or two ago, whether it was their parents or their grandparents or whatever, somebody did something right. But it wasn't necessarily you. And if you don't know how anybody got there, then like you assume that your assumptions about what it is that people do to get rich and what it is that people do to get ahead in the world are completely flawed. And it's a set of assumptions that comes down to like, did you work scooping ice cream at the local ice cream place in the summer? Did you work bagging groceries at Market Basket? Did you do stuff? And I had this conversation with another parent recently because we were talking about, and her sons are older. They're like in college or out of college and great kids and very mature and able to like do things for themselves. Like we hired her son. We essentially like paid her son to do something for us recently and like was so mature, transacted with Tom, was able to do stuff. And that's because she was like, I always made them get jobs. They always played sports. They always did stuff. It wasn't this like soul sheltered focus on just academics. And I think that we do our kids such a disservice. So many people came to this country and worked really, really hard to get ahead and get a good life for their kids and their grandkids, right?
Absolutely.
And then you do your kids a disservice when you see what you went through and how hard it was, and you think like, oh, I'll just spare them all that legwork. I'll get them ahead because I'll, make sure that these steps are done for them already. But the truth is that it was doing those steps that made you able to build on it, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have an attitude of generational wealth and helping your kids get ahead, but helping your kids get ahead also has to mean preparing them for life.
Well, yes, and it has to be actual life, actual existential experience 1 through experience 5 million. Not just simply the conveyor belt life that Wellesley is going to prepare you for. So with a lot of people will just be just fine. That's fine. But a lot of people are absolutely doing the wrong thing. I mean, I think about people who don't know what they want to do and who then just go take economics or take whatever. We used something we talked about earlier. Like there are people who major in hotel management at Boston University. And it blows me away. I know a girl who is part of their recruiting team. She said 95% of reality, she's telling me why getting the major there would help her career. And I'm sure it does. I'm sure if you're majoring in hotel management, then you're going to be one of the best at hotel stuff. If that's what does it for you. That said, nobody ever has to go to school for hotel management.
Right.
Whatsoever. What it does, if you go to school for hotel management right now, is that just means that you're immediately getting in $200,000 debt.
Yeah,
at
you're
18.
just paying a bunch of salaries for a bunch of useless people at BU
exactly.
who don't
at
work
18,
in hotels.
Right, because as soon as you go to that hotel and start working those night auditor shifts with all the crazies checking in or don't check in, and you have to walk people to other hotels that suck, and you have all sorts of psychotic things happening. And then you work the morning shift where people check out and argue about their bills and give you all sorts of stuff, or you work the night shift where the rooms that you promised don't exist, or they've been given away by the early shift weasels like Tom Shattuck gave them away so the guests would like him when they checked in. Well, all that training from BU is going away very quickly because you have human beings in front of you yelling at you or, working with you, debating you, whatever. The real world starts to happen. Sure, it's good to know some of the parlance from BU, but that's fine. But you don't need it. And this idea that we're setting everybody up, that the template has to be that, okay, I'm going to go get into BU. I'm a midwit. I'm going to get into a college like BU that's hugely expensive, but you get to sleep over there. You get to party up and down Comm Ave. You get to feel like you're being a good person because you're going to school. I used to want to torch. There used to be an ice cream place in Newbury Street that was full of BU girls who worked there, and they used to have. Oh man, I get so angry when Supple was with me. I used to want to say something because they used to have. The big can that said starving college students, like with a cute smile frown thing on it. And these were like blonde, gorgeous co-eds from Wellesley, Mass, and like West Hartford. Starving college students. F you spoiled no. But they think, oh, look, I'm doing the noble thing. I'm going to college like mom and dad wanted me to. They have on the Wagoneer, it's got the sticker in the back that shows I'm proud parent of the BU Terrier. And so like these people actually think that they're in like a noble trek, and they are not at all. They're doing the thing. Now in their case, maybe they'll be okay because their parents have the money, but they're not getting any smarter in a lot of these situations. They may or may not have college debt. They're going to have college debt and then assume, since they did the noble thing by going to college like you wanted me to, that it's on all of us to pay off their college debt.
Well, right. And it bears pointing out that people going to college, not going to college, everybody is somehow dumber than ever. And it's not just like an averages, like we're sending more people to college, so people are ending up dumber. There are multiple studies now showing, and this predates COVID actually. COVID accelerated the existing trend that everybody's dumber, but this is going back to 2012. The Financial Times published an analysis of this week that was really interesting, that's showing that more and more people, on average, rising across nations. I mean, I tend to think it probably partially coincides with smartphones, report having trouble concentrating, not being able to read things, lack basic numeracy and literacy skills. That we have so many more people that I think it's something like 35% of people in the United States don't have more than basic numeracy, like can't do math beyond a very basic level. And it's been rising since 2012, these numbers. So we're educating people more and more. We're sending more and more people to college. And the colleges, even quite good colleges, by the way, are doing remedial courses for people to get them up to speed with things that like any normal person should have learned in high school. And college is one thing. Believe me, I think that if you're getting something out of it, you know what you want, you have a plan, you should go to college and you belong there. Great. If you're taking remedial English 101 because you didn't do well enough in high school English and on the SATs to be able to write a 5-paragraph essay and you need that remedial English. I mean, Tufts had that remedial English class. I'm just saying.
That's amazing.
That's a good school. But they had a remedial English class for people that couldn't write a 5-paragraph essay. Like, I'm just throwing it out there that if you focused and did well at my high school and you like tried to get the most out of the classes and really learn the stuff that they were putting down, you already have way more than most of the people that have graduated from college.
And that's your high school. That's a rarity. That's
yes, that's one of the better high schools in the country. That being said, I think that anytime we are having people in college, quote unquote, learning to write a 5-paragraph essay, we've clearly failed at multiple levels, and that's a huge waste of money. For Tufts costs now, I think over $90,000 a year. It's almost $100,000 a year to send your kid to Tufts. For $100,000 a year, they're teaching them to write a 5-paragraph essay. I think that's nuts.
Yeah.
If you need remedial English, you don't belong in college. Like we talked about the girl in Hartford who the Hartford public schools did not teach her to read. She graduated with honors from their high school and didn't know how to read, which is, it's insane. It's absolutely nuts, right? their family's suing the school. Fine. Yes, the school failed. The family obviously failed. Like, I would be embarrassed to sue anybody because my 18-year-old couldn't read. And, like, I get it. They're Puerto Rican, so there's a language barrier there. But, like, most Puerto Rican people I know can read. Would you not agree?
Yes.
Like, Puerto Ricans, Spanish-speaking people can also read. It's not like she can read Spanish, right? But what's crazy about this story is that not only did she graduate from the Harvard Public Schools high school with honors, she now goes to UConn.
Exactly. UConn's going to have to do what another college president in Massachusetts talked to us about when I was in the newspaper a few years ago. This college also costs $60,000. If you want to get like a special ed, like a course structure that includes learning how to be in radio, it's like $70,000, which is not great for broadcasting. But anyway, but he said that one of the problems that they had, the two things that biggest challenge that they had was, this is during the Obama years. One, the Dear Colleague letters, which was all the regulators telling them to do different things and jerking them around, Title IX stuff. So I can imagine during Biden it only got worse, especially since Title IX covered boys. But he said the other thing that was very tough for them is that, especially with anybody who was teaching any kind of math in the college, was that they essentially they had to teach high school.
Yeah.
Because they had to go back and teach these kids 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade math and 11th grade math, and to get them up to speed for college courses.
Well, yeah, and it's getting worse and worse. And like I say, COVID accelerated this trend, but our middle school, for example, locally has huge problems because the kids are coming into the middle school unprepared and our middle school starts in 7th grade, for a 7th grade math class that can get kids up to speed for Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And usually then by Algebra 1, they're fine. But a lot of the kids struggle a lot in the 7th grade math because like they're not able to do enough math. Like our daughter got out of the elementary school without having seen a Cartesian coordinate system by the end of 6th grade.
That is, to be honest.
That's the X and Y axis.
Okay.
I mean, you don't know.
I don't know.
But I think by the end of 6th grade, you should have seen a Cartesian coordinate system. I mean, like, I know that
Cartesian what?
Coordinate system.
Coordinate system.
That's the X and Y axis. You don't know what that is?
Mrs. Shadow,
okay.
Please.
Well, anyway, I think that's nuts. But but there's still kids that can't even keep up with that. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
They're at a level that the schools have never been. And then instead of like saying we have a huge problem and we need to do something to fix this, obviously we're failing as schools. Instead of doing that, they're just dumbing down the whole curriculum for everybody, which is crazy. And they act like, oh, when they let the kids get into Algebra 1 in 8th grade, they're like, so the Algebra 1 is very advanced for 8th grade. This is essentially 9th grade math. You're taking it a year early. This is very accelerated and advanced for you guys. And I turned to Sally and I was like, Algebra 1 is just like what you're supposed to take in 8th grade. That's not like advanced and special. I'm sorry. It's not like it pains me to report it to everybody, but when I was in high school, I think like pretty much everybody took Algebra 1 in 8th grade. I mean, maybe not like, there were other levels if you weren't there yet, right? But that was considered like the standard. Like most people take Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And then that's what gets you to be able to take calculus by the end of high school. Right? And so I don't understand why everything is like shifting backwards. We're making kids dumber, and yet we're like insisting on sending more kids than ever to college. We need to be sending fewer kids to college than ever.
And so one of the things it's doing is you're producing on the back end these kids off of the college assembly line who are not living the lives they thought they'd live. Right. They both are not getting paid enough. It's not life isn't like what they thought it would be. Because if you go from the mild penitentiary of elementary school to high school to college, and then you get dropped off when you're 23 years old.
Into real life.
Yes. You are absolutely new to everything, and nothing is like it. My goodness, I can't believe this.
Right. My parents had a house. How did they get it? I don't know. Like,
yes. And so I think then unfortunately, this allows people to live entire lives of grief, of victimhood. It gives them a license, permission structure, as Noah Rothman would say, to be victims their entire lives, and to be miserable. Like you have a friend who's a big disgusting thing. It was, of course, went nose ring, purple hair, all that, whatever. Wasn't always like that.
Mm-mm.
But has a bunch of like really good degrees.
Yeah, she has a master's degree from a good university.
Has been underemployed her entire life.
Yeah, constantly asks people on Facebook to Venmo her money. Constantly.
This has been 15 years of this for one thing or another, for another, and then doesn't notice when like she buys a moped 3 days later. Like, it's fine, but it is what it is. But there's a lot of people like this. But I think that if you were to ask her why she's not thriving financially, I think that she's going to have a reason for you, and it's not her fault.
Oh,
it's because of something or the system or something. It's because of other things.
She posts all the time. So for one thing, I know, and this is not just her, this is highly common among women of my generation in their 30s, decide to get diagnosed with ADD and then post all the time about how like women were so underreported for having ADD, and like once you're on Adderall, it lets you like focus a lot better and get a lot more stuff done. And they're like, oh my God, see, like this is why my whole life, like I couldn't do stuff because I had undiagnosed ADD because the medical system was biased against women. And so I didn't get my ADD diagnosed. So I should have been on Adderall all this time. Adderall also incidentally helps you lose weight, which is not like,
well, sure.
But also, and then she'll post about like how her parents like put her under too much pressure as a young person, and now she's burnt out.
Sure, and now she's obviously the comfort and safety of the miserable sector of the LGBTQIA community. Fine, their life looks terrible. The friends look sad and terrible. It's like it just looks terrible. It looks awful. But they're not the only ones. There's a lot of people who will underachieve, not do well, and assume somehow since they did all the right things. I grew up in Stoneham. I got a B+ average. I went to Suffolk University. How come the world is not here catering to me? There's some people who just expect things to fall into their lap. And they were told that things would fall into their lap. Mm-hmm. They were sent to a guidance counselor for 3 years who helped shape their curriculum and point them in the right direction. They had all sorts of references for them. And so people are wondering, like, how come it's not working? And one of the easiest, and this is not just this generation. Remember, Alice, 1,000 Ways to Bleep You Back. Mm-hmm. That was in the Occupy Wall Street thing.
Yeah.
How come I don't have all the stuff that jerk over there has, that stupid jerk over there has, who's the CEO? How come he has the stuff and I don't have the stuff? F you, man. F you, system. And so you have all these usually middle-class white kids who decided they're the most victimized in the world, who decided they're going to be the resistance because they're overly educated on paper, so they have intact self-esteems, but they don't know a goddamn thing about life at all. But they have parents who are like playing along. That's okay. That's okay, Johnny. You can come back to your house in Wellesley after you lie in the middle of the street in 93 South and block off traffic, and we'll pretend with you that you're actually some kind of revolutionary. So these are know-nothings, do-nothings, nothings at all. Meanwhile, you've got my friend who I was with yesterday, who's one generation from blue-collar Lowell, whose like kid is like going on her 4th year as a nurse, having paid for nursing school, traveling the world.
Right.
And it's like, in that person, she knows, I think, that that ADHD is out there too. And she knows that there are other rich people and that the 1% is out there. But there are some people who just know to go, you're serious, and get after it. And some people who are open to every single excuse in the world to suck and be mediocre.
Yeah. I do think, too, that part of the reason this is becoming more common with kids is that people aren't having as many kids. I think it's much, much easier to fall. We fall into many bad parenting traps, believe me. I'm not judging anyone, but I think that in particular, the like overindulging my dear little genius child trap is a lot easier to fall into if you only have 1 or 2 kids.
Oh, yeah.
If you have 5 kids, it's like, get out of here. Go get a job. Go back to Market Basket. Go away. Like, because you like need your kids to go fly free, which they also need as people. But I think that we make many mistakes, but like over smothering our kids is not the one that we make.
No.
That's not our particular failing as parents, but we have many others. But I think that is part of the thing, is that a lot more people are only having 1 or 2 kids. So that instinct, because as a parent, you do have an instinct to want to like protect your child from everything and bubble wrap them and get them as far ahead as you can. But it can ruin your kid.
Yes, but that is a matter of selective inputs, is it not? Aren't you getting the wrong influences in and around your kid and around your family if that's happening? I mean, what I'm saying is that we also have, speaking of friends yesterday, one of the friends, once again, dad from Lowell, and has a son who's an only child, who's absolutely well-rounded. It's as if his siblings were the cousins.
Yeah.
Well-rounded, good attitude, not a defeatist, not self-important, not a crying, whatever. So I think that a huge help is just family culture. If it's happening around, then it, as you would say, Alice, it uses osmosis to make sure it hits everybody around. And like, there are the people who are going to go to Salem State for nursing and be nurses in 2 years, and there are the people who aren't. People who are going to just spend a lot of money or spend mom and dad's money or whatever and just suck. And I do think that some people get it and some people don't. And I will say in my own, because I didn't really have a professional job till I was 32-ish. Well, I didn't have a job that I wasn't horrified that you would see my business card until I was like 32. And then my business card went from being, I didn't have one actually, to being really cool. Although I didn't get paid anything. When I got into radio, because it had the Red Sox logo and the Celtics logo, and I had logos going, so I was very pleased. But here's the difference, is that if you were to ask me when I was 30 why I had an entry-level job essentially at some place and not doing anything, I would not have given you an excuse. I would have said because I
going out and drinking and having fun with my friends.
All through my 20s in the 90s are awesome, and suddenly it's 2001 and oh crap. And that would have been it. You know, there's at least honest with yourself. You know, and that's huge too. There was no like because Elon Musk or because Bill Gates is working against it. There was no. But that said, it does. Once you're on, it is a very good lesson. Even though for me it took me after 30 to learn that much like our friends build their own surfboards and own bars, that you need to build it on your own. There's nothing as disappointing as it is. There's nobody's like going to reward you because you think you're a hidden genius. You don't get to. You have to go build your own life, and that is hard work, and it's unsexy. You know, all the things that my mother told me I was special, so I figured that somebody somewhere would just say, "Wow, we're going to pay you $700,000 a year just to be you, Tom." Yeah, that didn't.
Well, I recognize.
Well, right, but like with most people like you guys listening as well, it's unsexy hard work that is everything. That is everything,
right.
And it is not like that is in. I think a lot of people.
A friend of ours was talking to me the other day about this like 10,000 hours thing, that if you put in 10,000 hours working on anything, that you'll be better at it than like 90% of people in the world.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, and like I hadn't heard that before. Apparently it's like a thing, but I mean, of course that makes sense.
Right. And I think that's the whole thing is that many people would be much better starting life before they start their pre-planned package of life.
Right.
I think many people would be good. Some people live so real and so adjacent to actual work that they get it. They can see, okay, I see. You know, my dad has me roofing out here every summer with him, and I know for a fact I don't want to do roofing when I grow up because it's hot up here. I could fall. It would. You know, there are people who are blessed enough to have, and I wish I had this as a kid. My next door neighbor, Keith, he was always doing construction stuff with his dad, and he would ask everybody. I was deemed the laziest kid in the street, so nobody asked me to help. But man, if I had learned how to do some things, even demo stuff and put a particle, whatever it was, like, oh, that would have been great. But I didn't. Fine, okay. Late bloomer, figured out when I'm 30. Now I'm a huge success and very famous, even though nobody recognized me in Boston yesterday as hard as I wanted them to.
You posted a lot on Twitter hoping that your fans would congregate around you to take pictures.
Oh, sad.
I see him over there.
Yeah. By the way, I'm still over here in the corner of Pearl Street and Lincoln. If anybody there, literally still here. I will pay for you to say hi to me. But actually, I have an aside before we get into Andrew Schultz. Well, okay. Let me just say one thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these people are misguided who launched the wrong way, and I give it to family culture is a huge thing. It's huge. As bad as we are at being parents, Alice, and I think we're in many ways very bad. You can tell that at least what we're saying now, this stuff, and our politics principles, this has seeped into some of the kids.
I think it has.
Yeah.
I think so.
It absolutely. So like somehow something good is happening, but it doesn't happen everywhere. And I think that if you live, especially a blue state lifestyle, that where you go from Volvo to NPR to Range Rover to NPR to Pussy Hat, that you're missing influences and inputs that you should have, and that's why you have so many kids now who are lighting, as Andrew Schultz would say, lighting Teslas on fire because they assume they got screwed and okay. Oh, I see. This idiot, Mehdi Hassan, has a worldview for available. I'll take that one.
Well, right. And it's funny because I do think like some is generational. And I know there's like conservative young people, particularly young men, but it seems to strike like the young women of Gen Z particularly hard. Mm-hmm. And I would love if you could play the... I sent us the clip. There's all kinds of controversy swirling about the Snow White movie. Have you followed any of this? So this is the new live action Snow White. This is the new live action Snow White movie. I want you to play the clip of the movie. I sent us a clip of the movie, but give me a sec because they've this is the live action Snow White movie. Disney's done a bunch of these where they made the Little Mermaid black and now they made Snow White, this Latina chick, Rachel Zegler, right? Who, for some reason, Gal Gadot is the evil stepmom who's supposed to be jealous because Rachel Zegler is so much prettier than her, which is like an absurd premise, but okay. Fine, and they're not allowed to have dwarfs in it because Peter Dinklage said that was wrong to have Snow White and the 7 mythical mining creatures because it's somehow like he's taking it personally that story exists, but whatever. Anyway, this controversy's gone on and on. Now they're like, oh well, there's controversy about both Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. Now the controversy with Gal Gadot is that she's Israeli,
right? And that's that's an affront,
problematic.
She's a colonizer.
And Rachel Zegler has posted in support of like October 7th and Hamas. So she's one of these exact young people who's been blessed by good fortune in all things in her life, can't figure out how she got there, and so has decided to adopt an insane ideology. And this is all steeped into the movie now, too. So if you play the movie, this is the kind of like cringe liberalism that we get in Disney movies now.
Please. You were saying?
Here's evil Gal Gadot.
It's just, Your Majesty, people are struggling, and it may not be much, but when I was young, my parents and we'd pick apples. We'd take them and make pies, then go out into the village.
Pies are luxuries. They don't need luxuries. It confuses them.
But sometimes something small, something sweet even, can make you believe that there's more to being alive than mere subsistence.
You know, I really don't remember you being this opinionated.
My apologies. It's just... I feel they need some kindness.
Fearless, fair, brave, true. How quaint.
So Snow White is standing up for the downtrodden people.
Right. And the evil Jewish stepmother. It is funny because you saw them as well on the Oscars. They came out together. And Ziegler...
But they didn't touch each other. They,
no, and Ziegler came out, walked with a bad self-confidence, walk. Kind
arm
of popping,
swinging, yeah. And,
awkward, not comfortable in a dress. And Gadot is, one of the 11 most beautiful people on the earth.
It was a mistake if you were going to try and pass off Rachel Zegler as the most beautiful person on the earth, who everyone's jealous of, to cast Gal Gadot as the stepmother.
Exactly.
Go
and also
for like
Ziegler,
Susan
Ziegler
Sarandon or something. I mean, like honestly, you can't.
And also Ziegler is one of these
Gal
people
Gadot
that they
there.
should have like not only you should be have an audition for the part, but she should have an audition for what she says out in public. She thinks you're right. She thinks she's absolutely special and unique, and she's a pseudo-intellectual. She's a miserable little feminist thing who's just full
Snow
of
White's
insecurities.
chasing her dreams.
She's full of
It's
insecurities.
like when Amazon made the Cinderella with Camila Cabello.
Here's what I mean.
And
Look
Snow
at
White, or sorry, Cinderella wants to like start her dressmaking business and be a boss babe.
Oh,
Like,
God.
It's so weird and like cringy
So you want
and
to play this Tim
horrible.
Dillon on this?
But yeah, so anyway, so now there's been controversy because they've had to scale back all the like premiere and everything because Rachel Ziegler and Gal Gadot hate each other very clearly in all the appearances that they've done. They keep saying public things that bother each other and like offend Gal Gadot. The liberals won't see it because they hate Gal Gadot for happening to be a Jewish person who was born in Israel.
And she was in the IDF.
And everyone
Makes
who
her-
lives in Israel was
Well,
in
it
the
makes
IDF.
her a colonizer, a murderer.
But you know, Rachel Ziegler wants her dead, so like between the two, like we're not gonna go see this movie because we hate this idiot, and like all the liberals aren't gonna go see it because they hate Gal Gadot. They've absolutely offended the entire country, and like this is like such a disaster. They can't do anything about
Which
it.
I do love. And it seems like this publicity tour has been going on for 2 years of bad publicity.
Yeah,
it's
since
amazing.
they've been making it, this has been going
Here's
on.
comedian Tim Dillon.
But here's what I mean. Look at this Cinderella, or Snow White, rather. This thing's, Disney's in big trouble here. And again, because you have Rachel Zegler, who's in Hamas, and Gal Gadot, who's in the IDF. They're stars of the movie, and they're on both sides of the Middle East. And both sides of the Middle East are conflict. And there's no fucking dwarfs, because Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones opened his mouth and said, this is fucked up, having dwarves in the movie called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So now we got a lot of pro-Palestine, a lot of pro-Israel, and no fucking dwarfs in...
So, yeah, that's great. So, can I, before we get to the whole point here, I have a question for you, Alice. You're academically, you've been through the recruitment process for schools, even recently. I graduated in Winchester. I think I was at the end of the day I was last because I was 10 like 104 out of 107 or something. People in Winchester were or 205 out of 2 or whatever. And the 3 who were behind me, like one like OD'd and like 2 others just went to jail. Whatever, like they weren't really ever.
Out of people who actually went to the graduation, you were last.
Yeah. Okay. So I was absolutely last. So
Okay.
So yeah, and I remember seeing my class ranking. I opened it at my mailbox with my neighbor Keith right next to me, and Keith looking and saying, "That's not good." He was worried, and that got me. Like I still think about that, like how it affected me. But I have a question for you. Let's say I got straight Fs, which I pretty much got. Are straight Fs at Winchester High better than straight Fs at like Woburn High? Will college recruiters say, you know what?
Well, I mean, it's
Not bad.
I think times have changed. I don't think it's possible to get straight Fs anymore. I hate to tell you.
Okay, but were my straight Fs better than Stoneham High's straight Fs?
I mean, I don't know how it was in the like late 80s, early 90s, but I'm telling you that right now, I don't think our high school gives Fs.
Okay, time for
Like, I don't think that's a thing.
This podcast that I listened to today, and Alice listened to some of it overnight because it was on.
I was so excited when you played this today because I thought I dreamed it. I woke up this morning and I was like, I had this great dream that we were on a retreat with like all the people from podcasts you listen to, like the Commentary podcast and the All In podcast. And like we were talking about all these things and like Social Security and all this stuff. It was like a really interesting conversation. And like I wish that could be my real life, is talking about stuff like this with really like smart,
absolutely.
interesting people. And then you put on the All In podcast today and you started to play it and it was like, oh, this is why I dreamed this. This is what they were saying in my dream. You played this in the middle of the night, and I like thought this was my dream. So
Yeah, I know, and I knew that the second half that we'll play, that we'll get to in the Patreon was right up your alley. I knew that would be the show today, pretty much. All right, because the other news cycle stuff is just the same. Whatever. We're bombing Yemen, which is good. And the people are
so
are
fun.
the Chuck Schumer's in trouble because he signed on to the continuing resolution, and Trump and Elon are all there is people are trying to repackage different Facebook nightmare stories of perfectly innocent supporters of Hamas being thrown out of the country, whatever. Yada yada. It's the normal stuff. So this is Andrew Schultz, comedian Andrew Schultz, who's a funny bastard. On the All In podcast. The All In podcast is a great podcast. It's kind of tech bros. And comedian Andrew Schultz is on there. And listen to what we were saying. This is precisely it.
Because on like a core emotional level, you want as many Americans as possible invested in American success and excellence.
Totally.
And the greater the delta between like them and their first home or their first investment in stock, the greater that distance, the more disillusioned they become in America in general. When they feel like you said earlier, like the way that you guys got into the market when you could basically take out loans for nothing, and then you saw these incredible gains, they feel left behind. The second they feel like they're in on it, they own an apartment, they own some shares of Tesla.
That's why crypto is so popular, because they're
it feels like it's their only access.
It's like comedy in some ways. Like all I need is a microphone or music. Like there's a path for me. And crypto obviously is a giant fucking scam.
It's a scam, sure, but I can get a piece of this. I can get a piece of this American dream. And I would rather that they were invested in a Vanguard account or something like that. I would rather they're invested in the entire market. I mean, there's this idea, and I'm sure you poke holes and tons of holes into it, but this idea, like every American born gets $1,000 put into a Vanguard
it's a friend
account.
of ours, Brad Gerstner, with this Invest America is the concept.
And regardless if the concept is good or not, the emotional connectivity to the success of American industry is really fucking important. When you know at 22 that you could get this thing that's been compounding for 22 years, you could pay off some college loans, you could put something down on a house, you could pay for trade school, whatever it is. I think you have a different energy towards America and its success. And then you have a lot less of these kids who are just like, America's this horrible place and capitalism is bad. Yeah, capitalism is bad when you're left behind. When you're invested in capitalism, it's
great.
the shit, baby.
Absolutely. We're on the express train.
Let me give you guys.
So it's so clarifying and so correct and so right. And that's the model. That's the way we should be doing this. Not priming most kids who have no clue, no ideas, and no money to go immediately into debt, into this big conveyor belt of bureaucratic administrative layering that for most people doesn't do a damn thing. For many people, I don't know, it's 40, 60%, whatever it is. So imagine that. And they were talking about compound interest, and if you all had a fund that you started when you were 2, and then when you're 22, suddenly you have a little bit of money, you say, okay. And I like the fact that he said 22, because it reminds me, like, okay, so what did they do in the 4 years before that? Maybe
hopefully something.
Right. I mean, that's precisely what it should be. Being locked into this college thing, the idea so limiting.
The idea is not without precedent. There are certainly both American states and countries that give their citizens a share in their most profitable industries, right? Like Alaska gives people, like, everybody gets money for having oil in Alaska. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's like a dividend that they get just for like being Alaskan. Like you get this money, right? And Kuwait has something similar too, where everybody in Kuwait is just freaking rich because Kuwait does well and everybody gets like a stipend for just being there, right? Because they have oil and whatever and they're like rich, right? And like America is the richest country on the earth. And, you know, we can, when we jump to the Patreon show and we get into the part of the conversation where they were talking about Social Security and stuff, it's so interesting because, like, we don't do that, right? We don't give our citizens a share in the success of the country. And they talk a little bit specifically about the historical context of why that happened, about why Social Security is invested in government bonds and not in the market where it really should be, right? And like maybe we're ripe for another conversation about this as a country. I know liberals acted like we were murdering them in the streets when George W. Bush brought this up to privatize Social Security.
Well, that's a great point, Alice, because right now we've got a guy with nothing to lose.
Yeah. Apparently, Trump and Elon Musk don't care. So if there was ever a time to privatize Social Security, it's probably now. But they talk a lot about the numbers of like why and how this would be so much better. And like, sure, you backstop it so that you don't have like a bad year where people lose money or something. But like, young people don't feel invested. And I see Trish is in the chat. And I know Trish and I had a conversation years ago on the Burn Barrel about Social Security, because I essentially said, like, I don't think people my age like feel invested in Social Security. Like, we don't think we're going to get it. We know it's going to be broke. We don't like, I don't think I'm ever going to collect Social Security. Like, I don't intend to. I think it's a scam. I think it's a Ponzi scheme. And I think that it's been run really, really badly over the years. And like, maybe the conversation is ripe to say, we need to do something different. And we need to do something different specifically that gets our people not invested in the government bureaucracy and gets them invested in the American private market, which is the most powerful force for wealth generation on planet Earth ever.
Yes.
Ever, right? And like, how much wealthier we would all be as a nation if we didn't have this. And how, I mean, I know that like the lefties are always complaining about inequities and stuff, but how the fact that private investors who have more money are able to invest in the market.
Let's get to that. Let's tease it. Okay.
And poorer people aren't, how that's like contributed to this systemic inequity over time. So I think it's a great conversation. I want to talk more about the nuts and bolts of it on the other side in the Patreon show, which, by the way, if you don't know, I've started to turn on this option in Patreon that they added. So if you haven't joined the Patreon, if you don't want to join the Patreon, which I totally get, like you don't want to pay us $5 a month or $10 a month or whatever, there's an option that I can turn on for $3. You can join the live stream of the show or see like a particular show's bonus content. It's obviously cheaper if you want to do it all the time to just join the Patreon. But if you want to try it like one time, it's $3. So you don't, there's no like recurring commitment. There's no like billing. You can just like one time pay $3.
Although if you're very inebriated because it's kind of St. Patrick's Day, do the yearly subscription and then forget you did it. Right?
True. Good point, Tom. Yes. But yeah, so patreon.com/burn barrel. For that, you gonna do the shot chat?
Alice, did you regret asking Tom why he didn't like Irish people? Because I think maybe midway through his marathon story, you said wow maybe 4 or 5 times and gave him the most uninterested look of all time.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering if you could take that one back, would you?
Yeah, in retrospect,
it was one of those conversations where I was like, Tom should really get a therapist instead of doing this podcast, but he's not going to, so this is like the second best thing. Yeah, I was not expecting there to be so much personal trauma involved in your hatred for Irish people. So, yeah, good question though, Steve.
Uh-oh, Alice, you got bad news for you.
Bad news for me?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
Some bad influences may descend upon you soon.
What does that mean?
Car bombs. All right, here we go.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but my maternal great-grandfather was the head of immigration in the city of Boston back in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Wow.
And he may have turned a blind eye to some of the Irish coming in, if you get my drift.
Mm-hmm.
Typical.
I'm sure he made all the Italian people sign the paperwork.
I must say that yours truly, your great grandfather may have been related to one of my people.
What's that mean?
There is a Shattuck who's actually on the Irish history trail in Boston who was a big...
Lemuel Shattuck.
Yeah.
He saved Irish from the Irish potato famine.
That's exactly right. So there you go, Tim. Okay, there you go. I paid it forward. He is a big Irish guy. He's on the
Shattuck Hospital.
There we go. Irish Famine
Shattuck
Memorial.
Streets,
Children in the Irish district wrote Bostonian Lemuel Shattuck seemed literally born to die. He did all sorts of good stuff. So I'm grandfathered in. Okay. But well, maybe he worked with Dr. Cheswick's great grandfather.
There you go.
But for Irish people, I'm pretty sure he just had an open door to the side and you just let him in.
Ugh. I mean, that's excellent. That's excellent because now our politics today was the St. Patty's Day breakfast thing.
Nothing Tom loves better. Nothing Tom loves better.
Love better than blowhard Irish corrupt Boston politicians who now are the old guard, and now the other stupid people are there making jokes. Women, by the way, should not be able to vote in this country.
If you think that Tom's hatred of corrupt, grifting politicians is somehow racist against, like, the Fonnie Willises and stuff of the world, his disgust for the people in Boston is also, a lot of hate for Diane DeZoglio.
Yeah, we love her. We love her. And the fact that they all hate her and they're laughing at her, they are a bunch of snakes in that place.
It's unverified, of course, but I think he may have done that.
Yeah.
Also, Tom, the fact that story about you vomiting on people in an Irish, that was hilarious. Hilarious.
I actually, matter of fact, two of the people I was with yesterday at that bar, Dirty Nelly's, is that where I was? No.
You were at Dirty Nelly's.
Drunken McFinley's or whatever it was. Two of those people who were there with me were at the bar in around 96 when that happened. It was horrific. One of the guys was the guy who brought me the rum. And actually, when they locked me in the bathroom to protect me, they locked him in too because he was trying to take me down to the bathroom. Yeah, he was there. Oh, that's great.
I can only imagine how torn apart you would have been if you had tried to walk out of that building.
Oh man,
through the crowd. I can just imagine they would have been smacking you around with peat shovels and whatever else those Micks use.
Well, I think it was mostly like BU and BC college students who I threw up on, but I ruined that day and maybe that weekend and maybe the lives of at least 1,000 young people.
I don't think 1,000. I don't think 1,000. I'd be surprised if the Kel's license.
Will you take a look at these bit characters in the news destroying Teslas?
I know.
Wasn't it like 3 or 4 years ago where everybody was in love with Elon?
Yeah.
Everybody wanted a Tesla. Everybody wanted the electric vehicle mandate. They loved that there were electric vehicle charging stations popping up all over the place. And now what are they doing? They're taking bats to Teslas. They're destroying them. These actors and actresses who are probably paid for by George Soros.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what completely delusional idiots they are.
Correct.
And now you have people wanting to donate their Teslas, and some are doing it to, like, fraud companies like NPR. I'll tell you what, instead of donating your Tesla to NPR, if your Tesla's paid for and you plan on destroying it, why not give it to me? I'll take care of it.
Here we go.
I'll pay for the taxes. I'll put the car to good use. Trust me, I get the money to pay the insurance. But, to destroy a car to make a statement, that's absolutely ludicrous. So if you're thinking about getting rid of your Tesla, send it my way. I'll put it to good use.
Gloucester, Massachusetts, those gale winds up there, Alice. Get the Andrea gale winds. Get it?
I get it.
Do you get it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you get it?
Isn't that the boat that?
Yeah, it was.
The perfect storm boat?
Exactly. Well, there you go, Albert.
See, I know some stuff.
And
by the
all
way, there was a market
weather.
basket set on fire under suspicious circumstances in Gloucester.
I know. I don't like that. Steve calls from that market basket sometimes.
I know. Report back any findings, Steve, on that.
Hey, Tom and Alice.
Hey, Charlie.
That Charles Laquadera song you were thinking about?
Yes.
The Go Guido Go?
Yes.
I believe the one of the lines was down in Revere Beach, sitting on the wall, checking out the bitches, drinking PBR talls. Pretty sure that Bradley J lived in Revere at the time. I think he might have had something to do with that. And it's funny you mentioned that song because when the Irish people were saying that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time or afraid to be at the wrong place at the wrong time and get deported, for different reasons, my friends in Revere, some of them always happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes.
It's kind of weird how that works.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
50 seconds, just under.
Well done. Where is that? A bunch of folks sent that to me.
Really?
Go Guido. Yeah. Where is it? Dang it. I got to find this out.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
Was it on Twitter that you guys on Twitter? If I can find it,
I did want to say about the people destroying the Teslas that Steve mentioned too, though. While you look for that, it's like the biggest whack jobs. It's like this, 50-year-old dude who lives with his mom who thinks he's a chick and he's in a dress and like has a beard and he's throwing firebombs at Teslas. There was one dude in New York who was writing swastikas on the Tesla of a Jewish dude. Like, can you imagine? And you think you're the good guy. Like, that's really where they're at. It's pretty wild.
Oh, by the way, did you know that Tommy from New Hampshire sent a drink and some food
you told
to
me
us
that, yeah,
at Biddy Early's yesterday? That's called class, Alice.
Wow.
That's called class. That was a clutch move. And it looked cool. That was huge. Thank you. Where the hell does my Go Guido go? Ooh.
What? Ooh.
I think it's Lucy Burge. Somebody sent a picture of. Okay, hold on. Go Guido.
When I was looking for the Irish breakfast, I kept accidentally having on local news, and Tom obviously hated it, except when the newscasters came on every time. You're such a horny old man. It's so gross.
Oh, this is it? Oh, I didn't know this.
Go Guido, go Guido, go! Go Guido, go Guido, go! Down at Revere Beach, sitting on the wall, checking out the bitches drinking PBR talls. My other hand is empty, so I tugged on my balls. I said, hey, go Guido! Go Guido, go Guido, go! Go Guido, go Guido, go!
I literally remember driving on Revere Beach Parkway by Kelly's Roast Beef with this song playing. Oh, that was a tough scene. Oh, that was, I wanted to hang out with the drinkers, so I had to hang out with the dudes who were going to go to Revere Beach, and we went to Revere Beach, and
sorry that happened.
Oh, that was brutal. Until I blossomed. Okay. Tom Shattuck.
I like you.
Consolation prize. Tom Shattuck. Okay, so I'm going back to this. Thank you, by the way, for finding it, guys.
You believe that, Lawrence O'Donnell? Crying.
Can you imagine? Oh, Bill Maher did the same thing. He's like, who did he have on? He had Batya Ungar Sargon on. Mm-hmm. He's like, now do you see? Now you admit this isn't what you thought it would be, right? It's like, oh, guys, stop it. Just stop it. We're not even going to play this stuff anymore. Stop it. The moment you sound like everybody else, just stop it.
100 days. What a pissant. He's a failed actor. He was on two episodes of Monk.
Was he really? Oh, I knew that he was a screenwriter. He wrote, didn't he do stuff for Sorkin on West Wing? I thought he was he had something with Sorkin.
As a judge. And I think he was in some other things. You can go to IMDb, but...
Anybody in this room in IMDb else?
Are you on
Yes,
IMDb?
I am. You don't know that?
What are you on
Don't you worry about it. I'm in there, okay?
Someone should just kick him in the taint and tell him to shut up, because he doesn't have any testicles, so you're not going to hurt anything.
Oh, he's a tough one.
What a pissant.
Very unfortunately.
Let me tell you something, Taggart.
Yeah. The part of Boston I'm from, maybe. Oh, God. All right, Alice, you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Mind your own damn business.
Thank you so much for joining. Like I said, we're going to do some more for Patreon. So if you're watching on Patreon, just stay there. If you want to join that, that's patreon.com/burnbarrel, or you can get the episodes.
From the mind of Mindy Kaling.
One-off for $3 if you want to do that. If you just like listening for free, that's cool. Go to burnbarrelpodcast.com. You can leave a chat message there. You can find links to different places to listen.
Owen!
YouTube and Spotify and all that stuff. Talk to you soon.